Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone. We are so excited for this evening. Welcome to Fairfield Public Library's What's Cooking series. Today is Monday, May 24th, 2021. My name is Ann Farkas, and I am a program assistant here at Fairfield Public Library, in case you can't tell behind me. Tonight, we will be preparing a recipe with Hannah Kaminsky from her latest cookbook, which is entitled Super Vegan Scoops, Plant-Based Ice Cream for Everyone. I feel so very lucky to have Hannah with us this evening. For those of you who don't know, her book publication date is next Tuesday. So we are really lucky that she has taken the time to be with us this evening. Some of you may recognize Hannah as she grew up here in Fairfield. She now resides in Austin, Texas, where she is a food stylist. Some of you I know are her followers, as am I, on Facebook and Instagram. Hannah Kaminsky works with top food publications across the country, creating photographs for the glossy pages of magazines, blogs, and cookbooks alike. Working independently for nearly a decade has provided her with professional experience in all aspects of the project, from start to finish, cooking, styling, capturing, and editing each image with her own signature style. Hannah is the author of 7 cookbooks and the creator of the award-winning blog, bittersweetblog.com. Tonight, we will be preparing together her recipe for cookie dough pudding pops. You should have all received the recipe as well as an image of what we're going to hopefully produce. Hopefully, it'll look pretty close to that image. If you have any questions, please enter them in the chat box and we will answer them for you as quickly as we can. You might also put your view on speaker view. That will allow you to see Hannah in a bigger form so that you can have a zoom into what she's doing, how she's preparing the recipe. At the end of tonight's presentation, I am very happy to announce that we have some super exciting news to share with you regarding the upcoming What's Cooking programming for June and July. You do not want to miss this announcement at the end. It is very exciting. I hope you have your ingredients ready. Take it away, Hannah.
Thank you for that lovely introduction. I don't know what more there is to say, goodness. I guess I should introduce the book a little bit. So Super Vegan Scoop is actually my second cookbook about vegan ice cream. The first of which being Vegan a la Mode. I published in 2012. And immediately after submitting the manuscript, pressing print, I already had new recipes that I was just working on and I could not stop churning, pun intended. But I love ice cream. It is my favorite dessert. So this is really my baby. I love this cookbook. I am so excited to share it with you because it is not just single scoop hard pack pints like traditionally you would find in an ice cream cookbook, but I also go into novelties like these ice cream popsicles and ice cream sandwiches, ice cream cakes, and then I get really wild and have recipes for baking with either melted or just prepared ice cream baked. So I don't think there is such a thing as too much ice cream, but if you ever wanted to do something different with it, I've got so many options for you. So today I'm going to be making a really simple one, which is the cookie dough pudding popsicles. I love showing this one because the biggest question I get about this book is, do you need an ice cream maker? And so to that, I'm going to say yes, but also no. So yes, because for a conventional creamy soup, you really do need an ice cream maker to make it, effortless, easy, and the perfect consistency every single time. The good news is that you can get a basic model these days for $25, $30, brand new, Amazon, eBay, whatever it is. Also check Craigslist, Nextdoor, whatever you're on. It's so easy and affordable to get into ice cream, but also you don't need one because you can get the same result if you freeze the base in ice cube mold and then blend it in your blender. Right away, it'll be like softer consistency, but you can transfer it to a container, put in the freezer, let it set, and it'll be more conventional hard pack. So that said, popsicles is a great way to sort of test the waters. You need almost no equipment. They're super easy. And anything can be a popsicle. It doesn't need to be the usual creamy, milky base. It can be a fruit juice. It can have no sugar. It doesn't have the same barriers that you have with ice cream for that texture. So to talk about the first thing, we do need to talk about the only equipment, which is the mold. I love these silicone molds. They're great because they are flexible. So it's really easy to get the popsicles out of it. You just, flex them, they come right out. Show you that later. The more traditional solid plastic, it can be a little bit trickier to get the popsicles out without having it break because it freezes to the side. But what you want to do if you have that is run it under hot water. Make sure you don't splash inside the mold, but just get it melted enough to release from the sides and then quickly get them back into the freezer to set the sides again, outside of the mold, of course. If you do not have popsicle molds at all, you can use wax paper cups, like you use in the bathroom or in a doctor's office. And they're great because then you can rip it and sort of peel them away too. For the sticks, these have a special size of stick to fit into the mold, which is really convenient and easy. Love that. You can get craft popsicle sticks at any, Joann's, Michael's, craft store, whatever you got. Posters, I believe, local Fairfield. I hope it's still in business. I love them. And
It is
otherwise,
still in business.
none of that, you can use chopsticks. Is my favorite one. It's a really great wooden stick. Otherwise, you can use like a plastic, not a plastic knife, that could be dangerous, but a plastic fork craft, maybe a plastic spoon, depending on the size of your mold. But just get creative in there. There's really no wrong way to make a popsicle. So, the specifics of this recipe. It will start with plain flour, all-purpose flour. If you wanted to make this gluten-free, you could just use oat flour and make sure it's certified gluten-free. I'm sure you're aware if you're on board. The thing about the flour, though, is that we want to cook it lightly first, and we're going to toast it in a dry saucepan. It's a little bit of a misconception that raw cookie dough is unsafe because of the eggs. I like to perpetuate that because I don't think you should be cooking or baking with eggs, but it's actually the flour that could give you salmonella. Still very low chance, but and by toasting it, you give it another layer of flavor. So I've got here just a empty, dry saucepan. Put the flour right in. And set this over medium heat. And so like toasting nuts or coconut, it can go from completely raw to entirely burnt very quickly. So you want to keep a close eye on it and shake the pan periodically to mix it. No need to get the spatula in there yet. You want to just go by visual cues and use your nose. So it's going to look just lightly golden brown when it's ready, but you're really going to smell it. It's going to smell like toasted nuts or like fresh toast in the morning. It should be really delicious. And it'll start to clump a little bit as the oils come to the surface, because people don't think about flour as having oils of fat, but there is a little bit in the bran which come out and sort of, come together. So that will take just a few minutes. Stay connected. Any questions yet? Are we all toasting? Are we all good?
We're all good, I think. Thank you.
Okay,
Great
good.
introduction. You're a fabulous teacher.
Thank you. Thank you. I try. I don't want anyone to get lost here. A grain-free flour sub. So if you can't do oats and you can't do gluten, that's tough because this is also the thickener, not to mention the flavor additive. I don't know if this can be made grain-free. I think that my best advice would be coconut flour, but you will get more of a coconut flavor to it. So as long as you're okay with that, it will work. It will just taste different.
Hannah, there's a question about the toasting. Are you toasting it to add flavor?
Yes. So it does add that extra layer of like nutty flavor. It's very light, very subtle, but it really enhances it. And doesn't give you that raw flour flavor. Like if you've ever not mixed the cake batter well enough, you get that little pocket of flour, it tastes really gross. You don't want that. So we're trying to cook that flavor out.
I think I also missed a question earlier about, is there a grain-free flour sub?
Yeah, I just addressed that with the coconut flour.
Okay. Hopefully that answered the question for Amy's iPad.
I didn't hear that.
I think you answered the question. Thank you. Sorry.
Oh, good. So while that's going, I'm going to address the liquid, which in this case, I'm using oat milk. I really love oat milk. I tested all these recipes with both oat milk and almond milk. You can use any non-dairy milk that you like, which is the beauty of the pudding state. The way that I make it like a cooked custard. I feel like for the best texture, richness, full-fat coconut milk is the way to go, but that does interfere with the flavor if you've got something very simple like this. So I would prefer something more neutral. Your best bet is anything with more fat. So if you can get an extra creamy version or, you know, the whole milk version, there is actually a vegan whole milk. It's like Notco or not, I don't know, it's brand new, but that would definitely do the trick. The only milk I would not recommend here is rice milk. I just find it very watery and awful. So, okay, I'm smelling it. You're probably not going to see a big difference here, but it's a little bit more golden. So I'm going to get this back on the stove and pour this in while I whisk, and it will quickly clump up into a paste. So you want to stir very quickly and keep adding to, you know, have that dissipate. So I'll stay connected to it here. And it might sizzle up a little bit at first. This is sort of like making a roux if you're familiar in French cooking, or pâte à choux if you're more familiar with fancy baking. It's basically like a cream gravy at this point, because there are right now no sweeteners. I like to use unsweetened plain milk, whatever the non-dairy milk is, because that gives me better control of the flavor overall. If you had only vanilla or original or what have you, it works too, but it might be a little sweeter. So that's the thing, don't be afraid to try experimenting. You can't ruin it, it will just be different. And if you do ruin it, it's just food. No big loss. Okay, so once it's smoothed out, I'm gonna add the rest of it in. Let that keep cooking over medium, low. And now to that, I will add good old salt, just a pinch of salt. I think it's really important in all cooking and baking, but especially desserts. It gets overlooked a bit because people think it should just be sugar, sweet. But what makes a great dessert is balance. And salt is one of those magical ingredients that has no actual flavor, but makes everything else taste more like itself. I don't know how, it is amazing. It should not taste salty, but it should just taste better. If you taste a plain vanilla frosting with salt and without salt, 10 times out of 10, you're gonna like the one with salt better, promise. So that will go right in. Ooh, well, it's a bit humid in here. Make sure you're actually getting the salt in. It's got all clumping. And then I will add, this is light brown sugar. For that, you know, brown sugar molasses flavor of cookie dough. I feel like that's essential. If you are sensitive to that sort of sugar, you could also use coconut sugar or date sugar, which are both lower glycemic. It doesn't always work in all recipes because it doesn't dissolve as well. But in this case, if you see it, you know, still a little bit granular in the end result, you can run it through the blender before you freeze it in the mold, and it'll work perfectly. So stir that to dissolve. And then I'm going to add my vegan butter. This is Earth Balance brand. I also really love Miyoko's. My only advice for this is that when cooking or baking from a recipe, you should use vegan butter in a stick form, not in a tub. That's made to be more spreadable, so they add extra water to it. And that water really throws off the ratios of whatever you're making. So it's great for, adding to toast, putting on your corn just for eating and serving, but it's not great for using recipes. So stick form every time.
That is super helpful to get that little tip.
Yeah, I find that so many issues come from just not using exactly the right ingredients. So I always have people walk me through, like, what did you do? What did you use? And it's a bit frustrating because there is such great variation in brands as well. So they don't all taste the same. They don't all work the same. But again, it's not going to be bad. It's just going to be different. Don't be afraid. So we are going to stir that to have it melt in. Should happen very quickly. And I'm seeing, and you should see also, bubbles start to form around the sides, which means it's starting to thicken. And you want to bring it just to a boil and then turn it off quickly because it will try to escape from the pan. So we're getting there. And that means it's fully thickened and it will be ready to go.
Hannah,
Okay.
There's a question to repeat the names of the vegan butter.
Yes, today I used Earth Balance. You can find that in Sous, Stop and Shop, pretty much any Mega Mart. And the other one is Miyoko's. And a great tip, their best prices are in Trader Joe's, believe it or not. And I love Miyoko's. She has a special place in my heart. She actually wrote a blurb on the back of my book. She's in the Bay Area, so she used to be local to me, and I just, nothing but respect for all that she does. She is amazing. She has an animal sanctuary out in the Bay Area. You should follow up on the brand. She makes amazing cheeses. Nothing but good.
That's wonderful. Yeah, somebody wrote into the chat box, thank you to Lauren and Margot.
Yes, thank you. And then for the base, the last thing that we're adding is vanilla. And you've got a teaspoon, I don't know if you can see it, but it's vanilla. So vanilla is absolutely essential to me. I have no less than probably 5 or 6 bottles of it at a time in my pantry, always. When people say that vanilla is plain or bland or boring, I know that they've never had good vanilla. It makes all the difference in the world. So my favorite brand right here is Rodell. You can get on Amazon. I'm not sure about local in Fairfield, but also Nielsen Maxi is great. You can get vanilla bean paste to see the little flecks, the beans. It's beautiful. The only thing is just avoid anything that's artificial, imitation, essence. Make sure it is real vanilla. You really taste it in ice cream base because there is nowhere else to hide. It's not getting baked. It is not going to be dampened. You get the full bouquet of vanilla. So 1 teaspoon going in after we've turned off the heat, because as you cook the vanilla, you do cook the flavor out. Okay, and that is the full base. So right now, you might be able to see it's steaming. It is still quite hot. And if you add the chocolate in right now, it is all gonna melt, and you're gonna have chocolate pudding pops, which are great, but not what we're going for today. So what you want to do is get the whisk out of there, and you're gonna get plastic wrap, just standard old saran wrap. And ooh, if I can get it unstuck, this is the worst part. Does anyone else have like saran wrap that only seems to stick to itself and not to the thing that you need to actually cover? Ugh.
Absolutely, always a problem. Looks like you solved it though.
So you take your saran wrap and safer if we transfer this to a bowl and not the hot pot. Okay. So we've got this in a separate bowl now. And we're going to put the plastic wrap directly on the surface. not just covering the bowl, but right on the pudding. That will help prevent a skin from forming, which is just not fun, not a good texture. I mean, I love skin on pudding if it's just pudding that you're eating, and you could totally chill this and just have cookie dough pudding, but that's not where we're going today. So we got the plastic wrap. I can't show you on the counter. We got plastic wrap directly on the surface, and it's still hot. So we're gonna put this in the fridge to chill 1 to 2 hours. I'm sorry, everyone's gonna have to wait for the step on, but follow me. And then, magically, it's gonna be cool like this. So you'll see that it is much thicker once cooled. Thicker. I'm still gonna pour it on the counter, but hopefully you can see that. And so now that it is cool, you're not going to melt the chocolate chip. And here I have actually mini chocolate chips because the popsicle molds are a little bit on the small side. And especially in ice cream, I feel like it's better to have more even distribution. You get more chips in every bite, and it's a little bit more varied than full-size chocolate. But you could also take a chocolate bar, any of your favorite chocolates, and just chop it finely. Or you could, play with it a little bit and use chocolate sprinkles. That works too. So I've got quarter cups, and they go into the cooled pudding where they will not melt.
So Hannah, there's a question from someone. It says, so we pour it into a bowl and cover with wrap after all the ingredients are in. We started late.
Chocolate chip. You just have the cooked custard without the chips added, covered and in the fridge. And you chill that for 1 to 2 hours until it's completely cold. So now it's cold and we've added our chocolate chips. We've stirred to incorporate, stir, stir, stir. And then, exactly as you might imagine, I'm gonna dose these into my popsicle mold. You want to fill them pretty much up to the top if you're using silicone molds like this. They do expand a little bit as they freeze, but not so much that they will overflow. If you go like super, super high up, you might get a little bit of muffin topping. It'll crawl over the edges, but it'll just be a weird shape. It won't, float in the freezer. It won't taste weird. It'll just look funny, like me. It's all beautiful.
It is. So there's a question, if you could repeat the vanilla brands.
Yes, my favorite is Rodell Kitchen, and my second choice is Nielsen Maxi. And you can get both on Amazon. You can get everything on Amazon, honestly. I'm really bad, especially this past year. It's like, if it's not on Amazon, it doesn't exist. It's just so convenient. And of course, you can get all of my books on Amazon. Got to give that plug. Right now, Super Vegan Scoop is still on pre-order. So you won't get that until June 1st or a little bit later. But you can also order directly from me, and I can sign it for you, and you might get a little bit sooner because I've got my book. So just a little tip there. You can buy directly from me on my blog. It's bittersweetblog.com, and at the top, just click the shop button. And I've got in my virtual shop.
There's also a question, is this recipe in one of your books?
Yes, this is Super Vegan Scoop. This is what we're all talking about. This is what the day is about. You need this in your life. So we've got the molds full, and hopefully you can see this. I'll move this over for a minute. What you want to do is just lightly on the counter here, tap it a little bit to get the air bubbles out. And that will help to prevent any voids, like holes in the sides or in the middle. So it's a better look, a better eating experience, just lightly a few times. And if you've got a silicone mold, which I did not do, it would have been smart to put that on a small tray, like a toaster oven tray, just to keep the base flat and make it easier to maneuver into and out of the freezer. But live and learn next time. So then you're gonna put that into the freezer on a flat surface, just so it doesn't end up, sloshing out or again, a weird shape. It's easier, better. And you need to let that set for anywhere between 4 to 6 hours, depending on your freezer. They're all different.
have another question before you move on. Hannah, sorry to interrupt you.
Yep.
If the base mixture has lumps, should they strain it, or what would you recommend?
If it clumps, I would recommend that you put it through the blender real quick.
Got it.
Or immersion blender, you know, anything with the spinning blade. You might want to let it cool a little bit because it can be dangerous if the steam builds up. So that's the only thing. We good?
I think so. Andrea, do you want to unmute yourself? Does that answer your question?
Can I?
Let's see, I don't.
Yeah,
Can you hear me?
you're good. You want to answer your question?
Oh,
Ask
okay,
your
yeah.
question?
So my base mixture, I get, it's lumpy. So should I strain it? I didn't hear your answer. I'm sorry. I'm trying to strain it into another pot.
Okay, the best bet is to just put it into a blender or food processor and puree it so it's smooth, not necessarily strain it, because you still need the thickening and the flavor. You
Okay.
don't want to keep it.
Okay, I'll try that. Thank you. Sorry. Sorry.
All good. Live and learn. No loss. And so if we are good to go, we're going to pretend like that has been in the freezer for 4 to 6 hours. And you will get things falling out of the freezer. Should have cleaned this out first. Oh. Perfect. You'll get 4 popsicles, or however many. The yield does vary depending on the size of your mold. So this can make anywhere between 4 to 8 popsicles. Some are bigger, some are smaller. No loss. And if you have a little bit left over, you do have perfect cookie dough pudding. And so for the silicone mold, the beauty of it is they're flexible. So you can just pull it out like so. Nice and easy. And you press the stick out through like that. And then for storage, what I like to do is I get Ziploc baggies and I just pop them in and then stick them back in the freezer until you're ready to enjoy. Just like that. And it also helps prevent freezer burn. And the thing about having a popsicle mold out like this is you don't want to put anything on top of it. It'd be kind of gross to put in your food. So it's just nice and clean. Ta-da.
Beautiful.
Thank you. I have to resource this freezer someday. Slightly disaster right now.
All good. So Hannah, this is your 7th cookbook that is coming out next Tuesday. Can you talk a little bit about how you got into vegan cooking to begin with and how you decided your career path, because you've worn so many different hats along the way and lived in many different locations and experienced different climates, literally.
Yeah, so it's been a winding path. I really never set out to choose this profession or decide what I was. I just kept doing the things that I love, and eventually I started to make a living from it. I'm very, very lucky. And it really started because I went vegan when I was 14. And at the time, I was a super picky eater. I only liked, plain pasta and desserts. So going vegan, I told myself I will try anything as long as it's vegan. So it kind of saved me, culinarily speaking, because it opened my world to so many new foods and flavors. It really ignited my passion within food, examining what I eat and what I wouldn't eat and why. And it forced me to start making my own desserts because there was nothing on the market at that time. It was a whole different world. Like, I cannot tell you how envious I am of kids these days going vegan, and they can just go to the grocery store and get the most amazing vegan cheese and burgers and chicken fingers and cakes and everything. So I started, old school DIY, and I taught myself. I made some horrible things in the beginning. Eventually, I got a little bit better. And through that, I started writing recipes. And I shared about them all on my blog, and gave me the encouragement to keep going. And eventually, a publisher approached me for my first cookbook, and I was hooked. And I just keep doing it.
Wow. And how did you get into becoming a food stylist? Can you talk a little bit about that journey and what that really, what is a food stylist?
Oh, yeah, so it really came as part of the package because I was taking photos of everything I made. At first, it was just to document it and through like this is what it should look like when it's done for the blog. And I began to see that as its own art, and the visuals really helped me. I got my degree in commercial photography, and you have to make good looking food, you shoot good looking food. So again, it was a matter of trial and error and playing with my food. At every meal, I would just try to make it pretty, no matter what, even if it was just, the same plain pasta. Challenge myself to make it look different and better every time. And so now I would, some days I wear different hats every day. So some days I would consider myself more photographer than other professions. And I shoot food for big brands, other authors, other cookbooks, other magazines. And sometimes, it's mostly pre-COVID, hopefully it will return post-COVID, I would just act as a food stylist on set for other shoots, where there is a separate photographer and cook and, the whole suite of people. And I got to work on a team, which was definitely a treat. So it's
I
not
hear
really,
you're a sous chef.
it's not a, career path that you go to college and you train to be a food stylist, but it just happens if you're lucky.
I hear you're sous chef there. Would you like to introduce your little helper?
I guess I have to now. Oh, this is Luca making all this noise.
Nice to meet you, Luca.
And he also wants you to know that for everyone else with their own puppy babies, I have a popsicle recipe in the book. So that's a carrot-based popsicle. And it actually uses a baby carrot as a stick. So the whole thing is edible. You don't have to worry about them choking on the wood. And he totally approves of it.
That is just awesome. I love reading your the text that you put before each recipe. How do you just come up with all of these wonderful, it just makes you feel like a real person. It makes you want to read it. It's like reading a recipe.
So I think that it's really important to tell people about it because there are so many recipes. I want to know, how did this recipe come about? What does it taste like? Why should I care? Why should I make it? Who is it for? When is it good? What should I serve with it? I mean, there's just so much to food. I find it so fascinating and rich. It's not just food. It's community. It's history. It's future. And I really want to share all of that. So that's why I do it at the end of the day. I just want to share.
That's wonderful. How do you do, what kind of a camera do you use to do your photography?
So I've got a Canon 5D Mark III. I love it. I love Canon. I feel like there's a lot of brand loyalty. So you'll either love Canon or Nikon. Maybe, what is the other one? Sony? Lesser. But I swear by Canon. Someday I'd like to upgrade, but that's not on the cards right now. The good news is that these things just keep chugging along. This guy is like 8 or 9 years old and still serving me well.
Well, the images are absolutely breathtaking. The zooms, the backgrounds, the whole placement of the food on the dishes, the colors that you use are very vibrant. Can you talk about the other 7 cookbooks? I know it's a lot, but you have a nice audience here, and I bet they would love to hear about all the different things that you've done with the different cookbooks.
Oh, sure. So to touch over it all briefly, My Sweet Vegan is the very first. It is no longer in print, but good news, bad news, because the photos are horrendous. I'm sort of embarrassed about that. I was doing that on a point and shoot camera in my last year of high school. And I was submitting the photos as homework to my photography class that I was not actually paying attention to. So we've come a long way. From there, I actually don't remember the order of operations, but I have vegan desserts, which is sort of a seasonal approach to dessert. So it's divided by the seasons and uses a lot of fresh fruits for, you know, fall, winter, spring, summer, not in that order. Winter, yeah, okay. I'm getting lost. And then we've got Egyptian vegan pie, which is all things pie. And I've got some savories in there too. So you've got dinner pies and dessert pies, fruit pies, cream pies, you name it, it's a pie. And then I've got vegan a la mode, which was my first ice cream cookbook. Where are we? And then I think Real Food Really Fast is going to be my top recommendation if you want everyday solid staples. It is delicious, healthy food, and it's all made in 10 minutes or less. So I'm talking breakfast, dinners, snacks, sides, salads, soup, super fast, and I love it. And I still refer to it when I don't know what to make. So that has been my bestseller. And then after that, I did Sweet Vegan Treats, I think is the name. And it's more all-purpose dessert and a few breakfasts, all sweet things. So a great introduction to vegan baking if you are not familiar, and also some more, you know, creative combinations, not just the classics. Like I love a good, you know, brownie, but I've got some double-decker brownie blondie mashups and a little bit more interesting ways to bake it. And then we're here with Super Vegan Scoop, ice cream number 2. And then stay tuned because in August, I've got the student vegan cookbook coming out for cooking in dorm rooms. So all affordable, low equipment, quick and easy recipes, healthy stuff on the go. And then I have in 2022, another as of yet unnamed cookbook about chitan meals. So I am wrapping up the manuscript as we speak. Almost done. Then I don't know. Nothing
That is just amazing. I don't know when you sleep. My goodness.
I don't. I need more sleep.
So again, so this, you have one coming out June 1st, another one coming out September 1st,
August 24th.
August.
You can now, and the link is also on my blog on the sidebar. It's the Student Vegan Cookbook. Should be on Amazon.
That ought to be very popular for students. That's a super idea.
And I would love to come around and like help at, you know, colleges and speak. I'm hoping I can actually come and visit you in person soon. Do some of that.
That would be lovely. We would welcome that. We're all thawing a bit.
Fully vaccinated and ready to travel.
There you go. So I'm asking a lot of questions. I'd like to encourage folks to ask their own questions. What kinds of things are you curious about Hannah's journey? Oh, we didn't talk about San Francisco, how you ended up in San Francisco.
Right. So I mentioned I got my degree in commercial photography. And at first I was just doing it online. I thought I was going to do the whole course online, graduate online. But then I realized I had like 2 years left. And it just occurred to me, hello, it's in San Francisco, which is such a hotspot for vegan cuisine, community, just life in general. And I'm more of a city person than a country person. So I took the opportunity. I moved to San Francisco to finish out my degree. And then I just kind of stayed. I moved to Oakland, which was more affordable. And then I couldn't afford it. And I moved here to Austin. And I've never been happier.
That's awesome. How did you choose Austin over any other place in the country or any in the world?
So it's actually hard to justify when I think about it. It feels random, but I've spent a lot of time in Austin before that. I had a few friends and connections. I knew the lay of the land. And the vegan scene here is absolutely booming. I hate to say it, but it puts San Francisco to shame. I just read, it was something like 52 entirely vegan restaurants in the city. And then that's saying nothing of the restaurants with robust vegan menus and vegan options. Everywhere has vegan options, and everywhere is dog friendly. So this is our city. I've never felt so at home anywhere.
That's wonderful. I see in your Facebook postings that so how do you go about, I see you posting pictures of places that you've been, the vegan restaurants that you've been. And sometimes you say, this is not something that I'm being compensated for.
Right.
So how do you?
Restaurants, I would say 99% of the time that is out of my own pocket because I want to support local businesses.
That's nice. So how do you then get customers from, how do you reach out and let them know? Are you constantly on, do you have followers on social media that find you, or how do people find you?
So it is tough. It is a lot of word of mouth, people who have worked with me previously, and they reach out to others who might say, photographer or someone who can help me with the project. With restaurants, I would say it's not my main business. When I go to restaurants and I take photos of food and I share about it, I just want to support them. I'm not looking to make money. If they like my photos, they might follow up with me and say, can we purchase these from you, or can we hire you? But that happens maybe 2-3 times a year, very infrequently. What for business is what I still struggle with most, because I just want to create. I don't want to, crunch numbers. I don't want to drum up excitement over the things I'm doing. I just want to do them. But what I usually have to do is I reach out to food manufacturers and brands, and I just say, hey, I already use your product. I already love it. I know how it works. I already have these recipes. Can we work together? And hope we can continue the conversation from there. I just want to, work with people that align with my values. And I've been very lucky to do that so far. So I do only work with vegan brands, ethical vegan brands. There's a fine distinction, you'd be surprised.
Yeah, yes, I do understand that. That's awesome. So what other part of your background do you think we've missed touching on?
Oh my goodness, that's a lot.
You've got such a rich background and you're so young. It's so exciting to see how successful you are.
Yes, I don't feel young. Like, I feel lucky to be writing this book about college cooking when this publisher actually approached me with the opportunity, and my first question was, don't you think I'm too old for that? And I said, you look young. So I'm touched. Thank you. I started early, so I'm very lucky.
Yeah. So any other questions for Hannah at this time?
If people think of things after the fact, I am completely accessible. Do not hesitate to reach out. I'm on Facebook under my name, Hannah Kaminsky. I'm on Instagram at bittersweet with 2 underscores at the end, because I got in there a bit too late and everyone got all the good bittersweet. Or email me. I'm at hannah@mysweetvegan.com. Or, leave me a comment on my blog, bittersweetblog.com. Harass me wherever you find me. I'm here to help.
That's wonderful. That is just wonderful. So your blog is posted in the chat. I think you also just covered it. Again, this is being recorded, so anybody who didn't catch anything can go back and listen to the YouTube video. So I'm just trying to think what else. I'm just so blown away that we have you here today. And
truly an honor, and I'm so grateful for your time. I know that you've spoken with some really, top level chefs, and I'm honored to be on that same stage, so to speak, virtually.
You are. We waited a long time to have you. So, and then to do it just before the publication of your cookbook that feels very, very special. So thank you. And thank you for all of your time that you have you put into planning all of this, to practicing it. I know it's what you do practically in your sleep, but we really appreciate it, and sharing the recipe with the Fairfield community and beyond. I know you also have followers that are on this event as well. So, so without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and share, as I promised in the beginning. Oh, here's somebody who says, this is great. I met Hannah when she was in high school and bought her first cookbook. And many years later, my youngest is a vegan. That's from Tracy.
Oh, thank you. And if you still have my cookbook, hang on to it. It's collectible. Can't buy them anymore.
That's awesome. So as I said in the beginning, we are certainly continuing the What's Cooking series. We know that our community loves food. So we continue to expand it. And we are very happy to announce the June and July programs. So for June, we are going to be having a conversation with Chef Michel Nichon. Chef Nichon is he's an author, he's a food equity advocate, and a familiar face around town as the former owner of the Dressing Room in Westport. He's the founder of Wholesome Wave and the Westport Farmers Market. So his face is in a lot of different places. COVID has taught us a lot about food in the past year, and Hannah touched on it and the importance of eating healthfully. And Michel Nichon is very passionate about that. Our health has never been more important. And since many of us have started gardens, Michel is actually going to be talking about our gardens. He's going to give us some gardening tips and chat about ways we can be more healthful. What can we do with our excess produce, if we have any from our gardens? How have farms responded during COVID? What has happened to them? He's going to discuss food insecurity and sustainability. Michel Nichon, for those of you who may not be so familiar with him, he is a 4-time James Beard award-winning chef with over 35 years of leadership, advocating for more healthful, sustainable food system. He serves as a founding director on the board of the Jacques Pepin Foundation and on the advisory boards of Chefs Collaborative, Modern Farmer, Good Food Media Network, and the Culinary Institute of America. He's also the co-founder of the James Beard Foundation's Chefs Boot Camps for Policy and Change. So that event is going to take place on Monday, June 28th at 6:30 p.m. You can register through our website. I will also be sending out a survey and the links to register for tomorrow's email. That event is actually going to be moderated by Raleigh Weeson. Raleigh is the co-founder and executive director of the Jacques Pepin Foundation. He's a culinary instructor and associate professor at Johnson and Wales University in Providence, Rhode Island. And he's also the husband of Claudine Pepin, that is Jacques Pepin's only daughter. So hopefully you can join us for that. And then in July, we have on Monday, July 19th, a super special offering. Food writer Alexander Lebrano is going to be discussing his book, My Place at the Table. It is a charming, gripping, and often poignant book. It's a coming of age story that vividly recounts how a timid boy from the suburbs of Connecticut became one of the most influential dining critics and food writers in France. So that is going to take place on Monday, July 19th. And again, the next event in June is Monday, June 28th. So thank you so much to Hannah, to the team here tonight. We again really appreciate your time and all that you do. And if you don't follow her, you will be highly entertained. please follow her. She's funny, she's human, and inspiring with her food. So thank you, Hannah.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And I hope I see everyone both online and maybe in person soon.
Indeed. Indeed. Have a great evening, everybody. Good night.